Creator, innovator, musician, and producer, artist and philanthropist are all words to define iconic American trumpet player Herb Alpert, a man with a profound passion. Some of Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass's 14 top 40 singles include The Lonely Bull, Mexican Shuffle, Spanish Flea, A Taste of Honey, This Guy's in Love with You, and Rise. In addition to his ongoing creative outlets in music, philanthropy, and the arts, Herb Alpert owns the noted Vibrato Grilled Jazz Restaurant and Jazz Club in Bel Air, California, with his daughter and partner, Eden Alpert. Join us at home and at Vibrato Jazz Club and Restaurant with Herb's beautiful and talented daughter, Eden Alpert, as we learn about Eden's personal life with her father, the importance of Vista Del Mar Orphanage, and her successful career today on My Famous Family. Hi everybody, Jonathan Scott with My Famous Family. We are lucky enough to be in the home of Eden Alpert, who graciously invited us to her house to talk about her famous family. Eden is entrepreneur, restaurant owner of probably the best jazz club in the Los Angeles area called Vibrato. And why don't we start by talking about the club a little bit and how that came to be?
It's quite a story. It happened back in 2 years before 2004. So what year? 2002.
Yeah, that'd be 2 years.
Pat Senator, the original bass player from the Tijuana Brass, had come to my father knowing that he had always had this dream of opening a jazz supper club. And there was this opportunity that came up in the Beverly Glen Center in Bel Air. And it was the perfect opportunity of someone not being able to finish a project that was already in the works. And my dad came in and took over, and 2 years after building, with an acoustician and bringing the right people in and designers, Vibrato was born in 2004.
So I left off an important part of the introduction, which was that your father is Herb Alpert. So my question to you, since the name of the show is My Famous Family, is at what point in your life did you realize that your dad was famous?
I think that's such a great question. I think it's the second time I've been asked that. It was asked another time on a podcast, and it stumped me, but I think I didn't realize until I was a teenager. Even though I would sit outside my house and the tour buses would go by on Maple Drive and I would, hi, I had no idea. And I think even growing up in Beverly Hills, everyone's parent was famous, so it was normal, which isn't normal. So in my teens, I think I maybe kind of wiggled it to my advantage, to get into places. I'm so-and-so's daughter, to get out of a ticket.
Yeah. Well, and what kind of influence did that have on your future career as far as your father's and his musical accomplishments?
I think the influence was I just needed to find myself and figure out, and that's what he always wanted us to do. He never pushed this or that on any of us, and I left here in '89 and moved to Chicago.
My favorite city.
My favorite city too. Both my step-parents are from there. Lonnie and my stepfather were from there. I got very interested in the restaurant business because I started working for California Pizza Kitchen, the first one ever built there. So I just fell in love with it, but then I came back to California and got into the fragrance business with my dad. I was young, I didn't know what I wanted to do.
What business?
Fragrance.
Fragrance business.
Yeah. And so he had a fragrance company called Listen, and it was very successful.
Called Smell?
Yeah, right? But it made sense, and it was so good. So that company shut down, I don't remember how many years later, and then I went into publishing with him. And then he sold that company in 2000.
Publishing music or publishing?
Publishing music.
Okay.
So I learned everything, his publishing company, Rondor, or Almo Sounds, there were a couple names. And I loved it. I helped pitch music for film and worked with a lot of music supervisors. And then in 2000, he sold that company. So I was kind of not sure what I wanted to do. Once again, didn't know what I wanted to do. I had a little daughter. I think by then she was about 6. So yeah, my daughter and I moved back to LA. I was commuting back and forth from Newport Beach to LA for publishing. And I loved what I was doing, but then in 2000 when he sold it, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I started working for a friend in Beverly Hills and selling at a place called Tesoro, just casual job, nothing serious. And I got wind that my dad was gonna be opening this restaurant, but he didn't tell me. So I got a job at a florist up in Bel Air, and started working up there to get to know the clientele in Bel Air. Because although we grew up here and that was a very popular center, I never left my bubble of Beverly Hills, so I didn't really know the area. I didn't know the guests up here. So for 2 years, I worked in that flower shop while they built out Vibrato, and I started as a host.
Really?
Yeah, as just a host, just to prove myself. And then 6 months into us opening, my father said, "Who works a room the way you do? You need to be my partner." So that's when that came about in 2004.
And I looked at your website and I saw that one of the things that you said that's very important to you about Vibrato is meeting your guests and walking around the room. Absolutely. And getting to know the people.
Yeah, it's something I like to do in general, is talk to people and meet them and ask questions. And I'm curious about people. Maybe some would call that nosy. I'm curious. So I think that making people have a good experience when they're at dinner is a priority for me. And I think that people really they're spending a lot of money, they're getting great entertainment, but the whole purpose of Vibrato is to have the Vibrato experience.
And let's talk about that, because our viewers certainly love talking about food. And you mentioned to me that the restaurant, or the club, is known for its food. So if you could talk about that a little bit, talk about your food at Vibrato.
So I don't think in the beginning we knew what our priority was. Were we a restaurant or were we a jazz club? And I think at first it was so unknown, and we had some managing partners and we were keeping it straight ahead jazz. But my dad's goal was always to have good food and good music. So sometimes most clubs, they have good music and not so great food. Some have great food and the music's mediocre. We wanted everything to be extraordinary. And it's taken years to get there, and we're there that we have both, and we have such a great marriage of music and food and a good vibe. It just all came together so organically.
And talk about your chef a little bit.
So our chef is fairly new. We've been through many chefs, as many restaurants go through. It's just the nature of the beast. His name is Marvin Garcia. He actually started to work for us with another head chef that came to us right when the pandemic hit. And that chef was great during the pandemic, and then it just didn't work out. So that chef left, and Marvin was our sous chef, and he is now our head chef. And he is by far the best chef we've had in all the almost 18 years we've been open.
And the music, amazing. I saw Seth MacFarlane is playing. I mean, you get top name, middle name, people just starting out. It's kind of all over the place, but great.
So it could be all over the place, but there's a whole pattern to what we do. You must have a following. Like it could be a new artist, but it has to. My ear and Hussein Jifri, who's my dad's bass player, he's our musical director. We work closely together, and if one or the other doesn't agree, we won't book someone. They have to have a following, because we're marketing and they're marketing. So it's not like we're doing all the marketing on our own. If you're going to be performing, and even if you're in from out of town and you're going to do a gig for the night, it's usually someone from New York who has a huge LA following, and they fill the room. So it's really about filling the room, because it's interesting. I get concerned sometimes, because I'm like, oh, why isn't the food the draw? Because the food is, people leave every night, that's the best steak I've ever had. The food here is incredible, but it's very music driven. It depends on who's playing, what kind of music's playing. It's a huge draw.
What's the specialty of the restaurant?
We're steakhouse.
Steak.
We're steak, but there isn't a bad thing on the menu. So our lobster is amazing. Our scallops are just fat and juicy and delicious. And we even have vegan dishes that he's gotten to another level. I'd like to step our vegan dishes up a little bit, but we're a steakhouse.
So back to life with Dad. When you were young, did you get to go to many concerts?
I went to so many concerts, and I had no idea how well I was treated until I grew up, and then that wasn't there anymore.
And the recording studio, did you spend much time at A&M Records?
All the time. I was there with, I just saw Paul Williams at a nonprofit event the other day. I was there with the Carpenters. I was there with Sting. As a matter of fact, I had a great picture with Sting that somebody stole that was right out of the elevator of the A&M studios. There's so many great memories there. I met Michael Jackson in the studio. I think it was Studio B. And Studio A was where they did We Are the World. Unfortunately, I wasn't there for that. But I felt like a kid in a candy store when I was on the lot. I would jump around everywhere and just go say hi to everybody. Quincy used to have an office there, Quincy Jones. So I don't think And for me, these people were normal, so it didn't seem bigger than life. And there's something else you probably don't know about me that I should give you a little bit about. I'm the only one out of all 3 children that's adopted at birth. So I don't know if you knew that or not, but I'm super tight and super close to my dad. I've worked for all of his businesses, and there's some kind of different closeness that we have, even though it might not have felt that way when I was younger, because he just was into doing his thing and touring. But no matter what I needed, whenever I needed it, if I called, him and Lonnie were there. So
I actually did know that, but I wasn't going to be the one to bring it up.
Oh, I'm okay with bringing it up.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that you are, because I think it's a wonderful thing. And when people have the wherewithal to take a young child that perhaps wouldn't have had a home otherwise. So if you can talk to that a little bit on whether you would consider adopting a child or just to other people.
Well, so I thought about adopting a child, but I stayed single for a long time in between my first marriage and my second marriage. And I worked really hard, so I didn't think that was the right thing to do. But I do sit on the board of Vista Del Mar, which is where I was adopted through, which is the #1 family and child services in the state of California. So they've been around for 110 years. They're write-off motor. They still do adoption. They do same-sex marriage adoption. They're the first ones who did that kind of adoption in the 1970s. So this Vista Del Mar is very close to my heart. They also do a lot of the spectrum children, foster care. So there's a whole curriculum that goes on with Vista, and that's how I stay in touch with it. And I'm open to talk about it. And I think that I'm a chosen child. So my dad and mom did teach me that I was special and chosen and found in the Garden of Eden. And that's where they came up with that.
Really? Is that why?
Yeah. That's what my mom told me.
Maybe we're listening
because
to
the other 2 have musical names. So, I was like, why am I Eden? So my brother, Dory and Aria, we know what Dore is for Do Re Mi.
Oh.
So very creative names, but I feel blessed to have been adopted, and I wouldn't be here if it weren't for Vista and my parents. And like I said, people look at me sometimes and they think I had one life and that, oh my gosh, your dad was so famous, you had money, it was so amazing. It wasn't. But I worked really hard to not let that be my story, and I worked hard on myself because I'm not my mom and I'm not my dad.
How old were you when they adopted you?
6 months.
Baby.
Yeah, infant.
It's super interesting because we actually have done another one of these interviews on My Famous Family with Manny Davis. My friend Manny Davis was adopted by Sammy Davis Jr. and Al Tavis, but he was 11 years old.
That's different.
And that's
another special chosen child, because that's a whole other thing to take on. But we come with automatic abandonment issues no matter what. I have found my birth mother. She's great. We don't communicate anymore. I just felt like I had 4 parents, and I had enough between nannies and parents that I had to deal with that I didn't need another parent in my life.
You've done okay.
I've done great,
yeah,
I think.
You've done great.
Knock on wood.
So our mutual friend Franco has given me a list of some questions. and that's what I've been holding in my hand here. And they're kind of quick, just right off the top kind of questions that... And I have to say that I published a cigar magazine for a long time, and there's a Yiddish term which is heimisha, which means like a family kind of feeling. And there was a certain smell, like if I was smoking a cigar, somebody would say, oh, that cigar smell would remind me of my grandfather.
Right.
Is there a scent that reminds you of your dad?
My dad, and they don't wear scents. So with my dad, it's more of a feeling. We have a call and a feeling. It's just no scent. It's interesting that you asked that, because it's a very clean scent. Mm-hmm. It's a beach scent. That's a good question. It's a beach scent.
There you go.
Malibu was my dad's scent.
Yeah, there you go.
That beach
See?
scent.
I bet nobody ever asked you that before.
No, so you got me off guard, and now you got your answer.
Is there a moment of encouragement that maybe you got from your father?
I always got encouragement from my father to be who you are and to, live your passion. And never did my dad really put me down for anything other than you're such a social butterfly. Everybody in the frickin' world knows you. And I'm like, but that's not a bad thing. I just had to teach him that he's an introvert in life and an extrovert on stage, and I'm an extrovert in every which way.
A timely advice.
Oh my goodness.
This would be from you.
A timely advice is to just be who you are, be authentic, and don't let your story from the past guide you the wrong way. You can always rewrite your story.
You can always rewrite your story. Well, here's one I would have probably scratched this out, but a quality you wanted to hide.
I think, so funny, quality I wanted to hide. I was not authentic.
Really?
Yeah, when I was younger, I was trying to be someone I wasn't.
Oh.
Until I kind of owned my shit.
You kind of grew into it.
Yeah, I grew into myself, and I did a lot of work on myself. It's not easy to be raised in a family like this.
Well, here's a tough one. You may or may not have the answer to. The question you never asked your father.
I asked my dad everything.
Oh, okay.
I was never afraid to ask him, even if he had an affair. He might not tell the truth. I don't know what the truth is.
Well, did your dad have a strict rule?
No, I don't think there was any strict, just respect. No lie. Oh, well, lying. I mean, I was raised that lying is end all be all. If
Tell
you're
the truth.
honest and you never do anything to intentionally hurt someone, we're all good.
I like this one a lot. And you kind of answered it already. Is there a characteristic of your dad that you find in yourself?
I think honesty and communication. And he pounded that into me, and I've learned that from him, and I think I'm a darn good communicator.
You're doing good so far. Is there a sublime moment of pride that you think your father has in you?
For sure. And I think it has a lot to do with Vibrato. And it he's watched what I've been able to do with it when he finally, thanks to my now husband, giving me the backbone to tell him, you either let me do this my way or I'm done here.
Your handsome husband, Brian.
Yes, Brian. And I think that him saying to me, if you don't go tell him that you need to change things, I'm going to tell him. It just gave me the backbone to go, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore unless you let me do what I can do best.
Right.
And trust me.
How do you think your father wants you to remember him?
Well, that is interesting. We've had a discussion recently about legacy. And I think he would like us to be remembered exactly the way I talk about him. Authentic, giving, generous, honest, a man who gave so much back to the music industry and education, and just does it with no excuses. He does what he wants to do, and that's what he gets to do, and you gotta respect that. And he's the kindest person. He does everything with kindness.
If you want to talk about your family life growing up and going from one family to having step-parents, how was that transition for you?
It was horrible. Lonnie was great, but you still do the manipulative things as a child. You pit the parents against each other. And then I had a stepdad who came and went. And then my mom promised me when she got married she would never leave me, and then they moved to New York. So I was back living with my dad. But my mom was in and out of rehab my whole life. So I was back and forth with my dad my whole life. And my brother didn't want to deal with it, so he found other ways of dealing with it, and we're 6 years apart. So he was not in the house when I was dealing with the most difficult parts.
Right.
But like I said earlier in this, that story got me to where I am right now.
And I want to go to the next chapter, which is going to be picking up the vibe at Vibrato.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah, so we're excited. So thanks for letting us into your house. We're going to go over to the club right now, and we're going to get that full experience of the music and the food and maybe a steak. Jonathan Scott with My Famous Family. Thank you, Eden Alpert.
Thank you.
1, 2, 3. How's about to blow your top? Build yourself some finery back. Mighty high. Oh, the honey hole girl, that's a
Join us now as we walk up the stairs into the Vibrato Grill Jazz Green Room and visit with Eden Alpert and jazz vocalist Brenna Whitaker. So we're backstage at Vibrato Grill and Jazz with proprietor, entrepreneur Eden Alpert, and tonight's star, Brenna Whitaker, who was raised in Kansas City. So you met, tell us again how you met.
So we met 13 years ago. Eden had come to my residency in Hollywood, and I've been doing the vibrato for 13 years now, and this woman is a pioneer for us, all of us musicians in LA who really love the craft of jazz and blues and, you know, date nights.
Why is this your favorite room? Aside from me,
Because
why is Vibrato your favorite room?
the sound is A+, the lighting, and the tiered audience, and it's a supper club in a world where we don't have very many. And this is LA, the entertainment capital of the world, and it's the best supper club in town. So that's why I love it, because I know people are coming out for dates, they're coming out for parties and family gatherings, and I'm able to emotionally connect with those types of people.
The Vibrato vibe.
Yeah, that's what I said earlier. There's a vibe here. There's an experience.
There is.
She doesn't just perform here. We're friends.
We are.
We're good friends. She came to our wedding. We were blessed enough for her to sing a couple of songs, and even my dad was completely in awe.
The gratitude is huge for this woman.
I think we call it the it factor. I think that's what it's called.
Absolutely.
And I heard it already. I just heard you during the sound check.
And you didn't even hear. Brenna makes me stop every time. And that's something Herb taught me, my dad taught me, is when you get that feeling, that's someone who's got it.
She's one of my best friends.
Yeah.
So
I love this woman.
that says a lot in this town.
You said you loved me, or were you just being kind? Or am I losing my mind? Brenna Whitaker, Eden Alpert, backstage at Vibrato, feeling the Vibrato vibe. Thank you. That's it, Jonathan Scott wrapping it up outside Vibrato Grill Jazz here in beautiful Los Angeles. Actually, I think we're in Beverly Hills, to tell you the truth. And we want to thank our guest, our special guest, Eden Alpert, and sharing great stories of her famous family with her dad, musician extraordinaire, record executive Herb Alpert. If you're in the LA area, Beverly Hills especially, check out Vibrato Grill Jazz for the old supper club kind of feeling and wonderful jazz music. As always, Jonathan Scott asking you to eat well and party hard, my friends.
All of a sudden, you hear her shoes. One of her 50 pairs of Jimmy Choos. Who's the one who paid for that Hermes dress? The last chump did now. You could be next. The little thing's long and lean like a Lincoln log. She wears a Prada belt that's made of frog. You can't keep your eyes off her gam. She's got you hooked. Now you're cooked like a honey baked ham. Okay.
Now I can see the video on that pretty easily.